Millions tuned in every week. The ratings were massive. The network was thriving. And somewhere along the way, TLC stopped being the learning channel and became something else entirely. A machine that found broken, vulnerable, or simply unusual people, put them on television, and walked away once the ad revenue dried up. What's left behind is a pattern so consistent, so undeniable, that it stops looking like coincidence and starts looking like a business model. Because the more you look at TLC's history, the more a disturbing question starts to surface. Who exactly is being protected here? The viewers, the network, or the people whose suffering is being repackaged as entertainment? Let's start with one of the most talked about families in reality TV history, the Duggars. On the surface, Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar appeared to be everything TLC's audience admired: devout, dedicated, a large, seemingly loving household with 19 children, all homeschooled, all well-mannered, all presenting a picture-perfect image of conservative family values. 19 Kids and Counting became one of the network's most-watched shows. Viewers were fascinated. The family was charming. The chaos was endearing, but it was all a performance. In 2015, reports revealed that their eldest son, Josh Duggar, had behaved inappropriately towards several underage girls during his teenage years, including some of his own sisters. The family was aware of the situation and chose to handle it privately, while TLC continued filming the show. When the story broke, the show was pulled from the air almost immediately. But here's the part that rarely gets talked about enough. The family's response wasn't accountability, it was damage control. Many loyal viewers tried to minimize it, framing it as a teenage mistake, something that happened years ago, something already dealt with. And for a moment, it seemed like Josh might actually escape serious consequences. That narrative completely collapsed in 2021 when Josh was arrested on federal charges involving illegal material related to minors. He was convicted and sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. And yet TLC had been producing content with this family for years, content that positioned them as role models, content that parents watched with their own children, content that the network actively promoted and profited from. The Duggar story isn't just about one bad person. It's about a system that rewards a polished image over asking the harder questions. A system where access and ratings matter more than the people actually living inside the frame. Alana Thompson. Then there's the story of Alana Thompson, a child who never really got a choice in any of this. Most people know her as Honey Boo Boo, the loud, funny, unpredictable little girl who first appeared on Toddlers and Tiaras at 6 years old and became an instant fan favorite. She was genuinely entertaining, magnetic in a way most adults could never manufacture. But what she was more than anything was a child being given a mixture of Mountain Dew and Red Bull nicknamed Go-Go Juice to keep her energy up during pageant competitions. A child being coached to show more skin on stage to score better with judges. A child whose entire personality was being packaged and sold to millions of strangers before she was old enough to understand what that meant. The spin-off show, Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, pulled in around 2.4 million viewers per episode. The network was thriving. The brand was growing. And then it all collapsed not because of anything Alana did, but because of the choices of the adults around her. It came out that her mother, June Shannon, was in a relationship with a man named Mark McDaniel, a convicted child offender who had served prison time for abusing an 8-year-old. Reports suggested June had known him long before his conviction. TLC canceled the show almost overnight, releasing a statement about the safety and well-being of children. The irony of that statement, coming from a network that had broadcast a 6-year-old being hyped up on energy drinks and pushed to perform for judges, it's hard to ignore. In 2019, June was arrested alongside her boyfriend on possession charges, needles and glass pipes found in their vehicle. By 2022, she had officially lost custody of Alana, who moved in with her older sister, Pumpkin. When Alana finally started speaking publicly about her childhood, what she described wasn't a chaotic but loving household. She described something transactional, a mother who prioritized the spotlight over her daughter. And most devastating of all, Alana said she never saw a single dollar of the money she earned from years of being on television. A child who generated millions in ratings and revenue and walked away with nothing. There is, at least, something close to a hopeful ending here. Pumpkin stepped up. She provided stability. And Alana, now older, is pursuing a nursing degree, actively working toward a future that has nothing to do with cameras or pageants. But the road to get there was one no child should ever have to walk. My 600-pound life. And then there's the quieter tragedy. The one that doesn't come with a dramatic arrest or a viral headline. The one that just accumulates quietly over years. My 600-pound life presented itself as an act of compassion. A show about transformation, about people who had hit their lowest point, finally getting the help they needed to turn things around. Some participants did make real progress. Their stories were genuinely moving, and Dr. Nazaradan, the surgeon at the center of the show, has unquestionably helped people who had nowhere else to turn. But beneath the surface, something darker was happening. Multiple former cast members passed away after their episodes aired. Some struggled to maintain any progress once filming ended. Without the structure, the cameras, and the temporary accountability that came with being on television, many slipped back into the same patterns that had brought them there in the first place. And that's the question the show never really answered: what happens after? Because for most of these participants, food wasn't just a habit. It was a response to something deeper, mental illness that had never been properly treated. The kind of pain that doesn't disappear because a camera crew shows up and a surgeon performs a procedure. When the filming wraps and the production team packs up and leaves, those underlying issues are still there, waiting. The show gave viewers a transformation arc. It gave the network strong ratings. But it didn't always give the participants what they actually needed: most sustained, long-term support that had nothing to do with television. This is the pattern that keeps repeating across TLC's history. Find someone compelling, someone unusual or struggling, or living in a way that the average viewer can't look away from. Build a show around them. Let the ratings climb. And when the story gets too dark, too messy, or too legally complicated, cancel the contract and move on. The victims in these stories aren't hard to identify. They're the child who grew up on camera and never got paid. The siblings who were silenced for the sake of a family brand. The people who were handed temporary access to resources and then left to manage on their own the moment it stopped being entertaining. The villains are a little more complicated because they don't always look like villains. Sometimes they look like concerned parents. Sometimes they look like devoted families. Sometimes they look like a cable network with a wholesome-sounding name and a primetime slot. But the outcome is almost always the same. Real people, real consequences. And somewhere in the distance, a network that has already moved on to the next story.